Hey there, and welcome. My name is Calliope, but I assume that you already know that if you're here. And welcome to this Q&A. I haven't done one of these in several years. And to be transparent, I am a little nervous, but again, full disclosure, I have done some practicing with some of your questions because I tend to be a bit of a rambler. I mean, I built my career off of over-explaining and talking to death, basically. So it goes to show that maybe I'm like that in real life. So I've worked really hard about trying to be succinct and getting to the point. But I'm just going to warn you in advance that I do tend to ramble. So I got a ton of questions from y'all, and I was really excited to film this because there were so many, there was just a lot of fun questions, and I really enjoyed that, so thank you for that. Now, I did organize things so that it wasn't all over the place in terms of subject. So I have things like all the ASMR questions are in one section, questions about my cats are in another section. So I'm going to organize things, and likely in the timestamps it'll be all nice and neat. But your question might have been broken up if you had multiple questions, but I took a screenshot of the parts. I didn't put any names because I would rather err on the side of you not having your name on there in case that makes you uncomfortable. So I just went ahead and took a screenshot. I'll put those on screen as I answer them. So naturally, because I work in ASMR, there were quite a few questions about ASMR, about how I work. So I put those at the front because that seems the most relevant. So my first section in ASMR is about my video process, as I called it. So I actually have 3 here. The first one was one I've done within the last year. It was back in December of 2023, and that is my ancient Egyptian mummification video. I had a vision of how I wanted to do it. In the background, I actually had been sitting on it for like 6 months, I think. It might have been more. So this would have been May, so 7 months. And I finally just was like, if I don't do this now, it's never going to happen. So I took a block of days and worked. That was some of the hardest I've ever worked. And it turned out perfectly. It really pushed the limits of my editing skills and my very mediocre cinematography abilities, and it turned out. So that is the project I am the most proud of, and that's my favorite one. A runner-up is going to be the 1900s palm reading, of which was very successful as well, so that does feed into why it's one of my favorites. But again, it was pushing the limits of cinematography, editing, and it just all came together, and it was the right video for the right time, and it served really well for me. I mean, the vibe was excellent, and those would be my top 2 for public YouTube, but I do have one that I've done recently on Patreon, which I've been doing these history info dumps, which are getting more elaborate the more I do. But my last one was on culture and the decline of the Venetian Republic. More specifically, the Republic of Venice is how I worded it. So it's very niche, and it was a lot of research, and that was the most editing heavy video I've ever done. It took 2 weeks to edit alone, and it turned out awesome and amazing, and I was so proud of it. And I'm actually working on another history info dump now that is on, do I say it? The problem with saying it is I need to make sure it's going to happen. But I've been hyper-focusing on it so bad for weeks, like I'll blow hours just working on it. So I'm doing a project on Karnak, the temple complex in Karnak, Luxor, Egypt. So it's gotten really big so far. I mean, you have like 30 pharaohs that worked on it in like over 2,000 years. So it's gotten a little out of control, but I'm very excited about it. So obviously the above videos that I just talked about were some of my favorites. If you look very closely, you can see my microphone syncing in real time. In terms of what my favorite videos are to film, I go back and forth. I mean, obviously medical is the easiest for me to do. I'm the most comfortable with that, but sometimes it's fun to push the limits. Sometimes it's fun to go through more of, I don't write scripts necessarily, I write bullet points, but it's something I've been thinking about a lot, and I think what my favorite videos are to film are the ones that I can get really passionate about, which is kind of all of them for the most part. I mean, pseudoscience I'm really passionate about, the medical field I'm really passionate about, history I'm very passionate about. So it's really anything that can really get me going, I guess. That's a terrible way to put it. That's awful. Just anything that can get me excited, that's not any better. That's almost worse. Just anything that can ignite that sort of spark, we're just going to let that ride. And that really is a majority of them. I mean, I can get intrigued by almost anything. So if something intrigues me, that's immediately going to become my favorite. Hands down, it is between the otoscope only videos and hearing test videos. Otoscope only because the editing can be quite a nightmare, and filming it can be a little bit of a nightmare because I'm only doing one thing and I'm like taking away the seconds as I'm filming it because I'm not doing anything, and they're also really uncomfortable to film. It's really painful to be stuck in that position for a while, and like your legs fall asleep, your arms fall asleep, and the whole time you're like, when is this gonna end? Not that I don't still like filming them, but it's not fun. And hearing tests, again, because you're doing most everything in post, it's boring a little bit, like I can't talk, I can't do anything, so I'm like bouncing around. And some people don't like that I do my little check marks after, the beeps or the words, but if I didn't do that, I would lose my place, I wouldn't be able to focus, I have to do something, and that's the only thing I can do in film universe that makes any sense. So I actually did the math on this because it takes a long time. It takes a long time to make these. So usually it'll take me about 1 to 2 hours to film, and I might get 30 to 65 usable minutes out of that. And then it takes me about 30 minutes to import everything, 10 minutes to load everything into Audacity and do my noise reduction and my high pass filter. And then it takes 10 minutes to import and organize everything in DaVinci Resolve, which is my editor, and I'll sync the audio to the video and color correct and just make sure everything is in line. And it'll take me, on average, from 2 to 8 hours of editing. It's not usually less, but it can be more, just depending on the video. Hearing tests, specifically. And it takes me about 15 to 45 minutes to double check what I've done, especially with videos that are heavy in editing. It takes about 1 to 2 hours, more towards 2 hours to render the video, 15 to 20 minutes to render the audio, of which I post on Patreon, and then about 30 minutes to upload. So at the low end, that's almost 6 hours, and at the high end, that's 14 and a half hours. And that does not take into account research, or when I do my scripting bullet points, or like coming up with all the details in the YouTube video, the tags, the description, the thumbnail, all of that. It's quite variable. So I would say in the middle of almost 6 and 14 and a half is more likely what it takes. So it's kind of a lot. I'm never not working. My favorite thing about filming ASMR is that I come down here. I'm in my basement. I had to move the filming space down here. But I am... This is going to sound a little depressing if you don't really know my history, and, it's going to sound depressing even if you do, but filming ASMR is the only time that I feel like I'm human, where I can talk and I'm not fucking everything up, and I'm not making the wrong choices, and I'm not saying the wrong things. I'm just doing what I do. I'm in my natural habitat, and I can talk and no one's interrupting me or talking over me, and no one's there to stop me. Like, I'm allowed to exist, and I don't get that feeling very much. ASMR has allowed me to exist, and not only that, but there's a stark difference between my experiences in life and how hard people have worked to grind me down, I suppose, versus it's a strength in ASMR. The things that interest me, that bore everyone else, annoy them, make them irritated with me for talking about, are the same things that allow me to make a living. And that's everything. That's everything to me. It's the only time I am human, really. And that's very special to me. The one thing that I have yet to master, I love the old school sound of like the bubbling in the ear and like ear cleanings, especially like Heather Feather did the best ones. And I know the science behind doing it. It's just whenever I try, it never turns out. So that's something I want to master. It's not something I do very often, so I have done it before, but I want to do that one. I want to figure that one out. Ooh, this is kind of a hard one because I don't like strangers touching me. There's a select few people that I allow to touch me. So a lot of ASMR triggers when they're in person are touching. So I think maybe my hair, like hair brushing, would probably be the safest one to do for me. Or something where, actually, maybe like when they do sort of like the palm reading or the hand reflexology, because then I can see them in front of me and I know what they're doing. That might be the best one. Something with my hands, just this sort of like, the tracing and the narrating and all that. I think that might be the best. Well, not to sidestep the question, but the one ASMR collaboration that I've done that I really wanted to do, I have already done. I spent my entire career like wanting to work with Jelly Bean Green ASMR. A big part of my adolescence was watching her videos, and I've worked with her multiple times. Nothing can top that for me. That was my number one creator. I've already done it multiple times. It's still like, I can't believe I've done this. So yeah, that would be the one person that I would have wanted to collaborate with. And that's the most important thing. So when I was a young child, the interest in the medical industry, I think, started at 7, and then pseudoscience was 8. So I had these encyclopedias called Mysteries of the Unknown, and there was one on, I think it was Mind Over Matter, and there was one on divination. And that's where I learned about subjects like hypnosis, phrenology, physiognomy, astrology, palm reading, all these different pseudosciences. And I loved them so much. I was so fascinated with that. And it's very strange to be an 8-year-old girl who is enthralled with the work of Milton Erickson. Yeah, that was something I couldn't take to anyone at all. So before ASMR, it was something that I just kept to myself. But now I've made a career off of it. So yeah, and the medical stuff started the same way. I had encyclopedias. I was absolutely taken with the entries for the techniques and tools of medicine and the history of medicine, and that's all she wrote. I've learned a lot of useful things in regards to pseudoscience, because we have to remember that pseudoscience can go a couple ways. It might be something, hey, there's a train. It might be something that very well could have scientific value. It just isn't studied enough yet. For example, ASMR might be considered a pseudoscience, especially because it's built primarily off of anecdotal evidence. And the other way is that it just is not compatible with the scientific method, so you're not going to be able to study it, or it's been disproven, debunked, what have you. So there are lots of valuable tidbits in things because you're getting so many different viewpoints, and it helps you you take in all this information and you build something better out of it. It helps you understand the world a little bit better, because something that really I love about pseudoscience is a lot of what it's built off of is people caring about each other and people wanting other people to feel better. That's the core value in a lot of these. And I think that is very special. That helps me in with how I relate to the world and how I relate to other people, which seems kind of strange, but that's just kind of how the chips fell. One of the more stranger things I've come across is definitely like biodynamic massage, which was where one uses the stethoscope to listen to the peristalsis sounds, I think it is, with the intestines and such, the digestional movements, and that squeaked me out a little bit. I mean, to a point, I get it. It's a lot of the things about pseudoscience is they sound very well thought out, and it sounds like, they really know what they're talking about, and then they get to a strange conclusion that you're like, we were almost there. So that's probably one of the weirder things, I suppose. In the end, there's weird things about all of them. I think that's probably the one that stuck out the most, that I was like, not my favorite. The OCs. As I mentioned before, it used to be where anything went in ASMR. It's not 2016 anymore, unfortunately. And people, by and large, are not really interested in OCs anymore, especially not from me. Maybe in other places or people that have a bigger following, or maybe that's their shtick. Not from me. Anytime I did anything with an OC in the last couple years has done so poorly that I was like, is my channel ever gonna recover? And the same thing goes with historical role plays. If I don't do something anymore, it's because it fucks my channel. And that's unfortunately the by and large of it. Another thing, I've thought about, taking my OCs and putting them on Patreon. And again, kind of a depressing alert here, but they're not mine anymore. They're not my characters anymore. I created a lot of these characters before I got sick or right after, when I was still the me that was back then. And I'm not that person anymore. I don't even know who that person is anymore. And it feels disrespectful for me to try to emulate these characters when I don't remember how they were supposed to be. And it just got to a point where every time I'm like, I could do a Quinn video or I could bring back Phoebe Phoenix, I just got so physically ill thinking about it. Like I was taking something away from her, which was me, but isn't anymore. So yeah, that's kind of the kind of screwed up answer. But yeah, it just feels they're not mine anymore. And I just want to let them be. They were amazing where they were, and I don't need to dredge that up and try to do a pale imitation of them, because that's not respecting what they were, and that's not respecting her. So now for some quick little guys. When did you start making ASMR? I was 19 years old. I was a baby. I mean, I'm still a baby, but I was 19 years old. It was 2016. Why did I start making videos? Ooh, what a question. So I had a lot of bad things happen to me, bad things no one will ever hear about because it does not serve any purpose. But part of those bad things was I had multiple deaths that were close to me happen in quick succession, and it was pretty brutal. I was dealing with heavy grief for a long time. I decided to, I had been doing that for about a year and a half at that point, where I was stuck in grief. And that's when I just decided to do it, because ASMR was like my only comfort that I could get by myself, when I was alone. So I tried doing that. And that, oh my God, it helped so much. That was excellent. That really helped pull me out. So that's why I started. It was kind of a coping strategy, if you will. My favorite ASMR artist. So I had an ASMR artist that I loved so much that no longer makes videos, and I think she pulled all hers off. But that was Lauren Ostrowski Fenton. And, other than that, of course, it's like Heather Feather, and it's Whispers Red, and Massage ASMR. It's a lot of the original creators. It's just people that, for whatever reason, I just keep going back to. I think I'm most proud of how ASMR has allowed me to become a much more fully rounded person. I mean, it's something that engages me intellectually, and it's a creative pursuit and allows me to communicate with the outside world. It's just made me just so well-rounded. So I think the personal development aspect of it is something that I'm most proud of. And it's like one of the longest pursuits I've ever had. And that's incredible for someone who is very impulsive and unfortunately drops a lot of things because it just doesn't click right. And this did. I think honestly, there's not anything I could change. Realistically, there's not anything else I could do. I mean, okay, I think I should have spent less time on social media and on analytics. With social media, I got caught up a lot in, unfortunately, the comparison game and how much of it is real, really. It's all kind of a performance. We're all performing, and that skewed my relationships a lot, especially because you think that maybe you have a deeper relationship with someone than you really do. And I got caught up in that a lot, to the point where I'm like, I'm never ever doing that again. And with analytics, it's hard not to take personal. When your entire livelihood depends on those numbers, it's hard to not, feel like you're not good enough constantly. So, and it didn't make me a better person. It didn't make me a better creator. It just made me desperate. And that shows. It shows a lot. And I don't think, I had to go through those things to know that now. So again, it's not something I could have changed, or maybe even would have changed, because I only know that now because I went through that, Dude, the things I would do. Oh my God. I have too many ideas, really. I like to think, okay, I have this idea, right? I have this idea that like it would be cool to do this big sort of like exhibition kind of video where I want to do like the history of ASMR but through sound because that's much easier to track than like these little tidbits of history on like forums and stuff. But I want to create like this super high quality, almost like a museum exhibit, really, or like an art exhibit kind of video. And actually, like, this is on my list to do for Patreon. After my Karnak project, I want to try to do that. But that's what I want to do is like, I'm just so fascinated with the idea, like, especially the real life ASMR videos like Whispers Red has done before. She's recorded those. That fascinates me so much. So maybe something along those lines, which wouldn't necessarily take an unlimited budget, but more what I'm thinking of is it would take time and production and engineering. That would be super cool. The biggest tip I can say here is don't purchase anything or get anything prop-wise, equipment-wise that will be good enough. Just good enough. Because in the long run, you will spend so much money on things that are just good enough that don't actually work, or they only work for a short amount of time. So saving up for something and making sure it's something you really want, doing your research, that's what's most important, because Lord knows there are things that could have saved me a lot of money in the long run, and my videos would have been higher quality for it, that I just couldn't do because of budget constraints, and it would have taken me a long time to save up for, but everything would have been better for it. So save up for things and don't go for something that's, the cheapest or is just going to work for a short amount of time. You want to think longevity if you plan on staying in this genre. That's the absolute biggest thing. Another thing is when you're new, well, first off, don't think about monetization. That's not, if it comes, it comes, but otherwise, keep it fun. Nothing kills creativity and fun faster than tying your livelihood to it, and that just breeds desperation. So you can do anything you want, and I encourage you to try to do everything you want, and anything you think of, anything you want to try, just do everything. Like, just have fun with it. It's supposed to be fun. It was always supposed to be fun. And many of us have kind of lost that, and that's what it was meant to be. It's the more fun you have, the more relaxing it becomes. The more passionate you are, the better you connect with people. So for the love of God, keep it fun. Since I primarily look at comments on my phone, I don't usually see the profile picture very much. It's usually the username that I see the most. And there are some very creative ones out there. I've come across quite a few lately. But my favorite is there are some people that have like the Ben Affleck going through it sort of profile picture, like with him with the cigarette and stuff. Like, that's my absolute favorite. If my personality was a picture, it would be Ben Affleck going through it. So that when I see that, that's chef's kiss, but otherwise I notice the usernames more because that's what I can see. So now we're getting into the more like personal questions, of which I called like icebreaker questions. So in terms of like traveling and language and stuff, what country would you like to visit most? Number 1's Egypt, number 2's Germany, number 3's Italy, more specifically Venice. I've done a lot of projects on Venice, so I definitely want to see what I've been writing and making videos about. Dream vacation? Oh, bud, let me tell you. So, we are going to start at like, let's start at like Abu Simbel in Egypt, okay? We're gonna go to like Luxor Temple, and we're gonna go to Karnak and the Valley of the Kings and all that shit. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna stop at all the different monuments, you know, like I wanna see the step pyramids, and I wanna see the bent pyramid, the red pyramid, fucking Giza, like, let's, all of it. I wanna see all of it. So we're gonna go up, and then we're gonna go to like the museums in Cairo, and then we're gonna go to Germany. We're gonna go see some castles and the Black Forest, and I'm gonna hang out with my best friend, and it's gonna be great. And then, you know what? I'm taking my best friend, and me and her, we're gonna go to Venice. We're gonna go hang out in Venice, and that would be the perfect vacation. That is absolutely not something I will ever be able to do, but that sounds incredible. Well, at some point, I am going to master German. I am. I want to learn German. I want to learn Japanese. I would like to learn Spanish. That would be incredibly useful. And I want to learn American Sign Language because, let's be honest, should I live that long, I will go deaf. So that's going to kind of be important. I am living the dream, and my day has just started. I've been doing this video for a little while now, so it's been pretty good. It's nice to just have a stream of thought. Hope your day's going all right. And the Basque Country, so I had heard of it. I didn't know exactly where it was, and then I looked it up, and that was pretty cool. So that's a neat little tidbit. Thank you for that. Probably my favorite subject was English, but also kind of history, although not the actual history class, more like the textbooks. History class tended to be very dry, so it was hard to pay attention, especially because I just wanted to keep going through everything. But English was probably the number one because I love writing, I love reading. My reading comprehension is not excellent. That kind of has to do with the whole not being able to understand social cues and context sort of thing. But I'm just completely fascinated with all the different ways that people weave words to arrive to a picture of a concept, a conclusion, what have you. I love watching that and like, oh, I understand. Like, I love understanding new things. So that would probably be why. I do not have a college degree. I mean, I did go to college for a while, and originally I had planned on doing a computer science major with a linguistics minor for many reasons, primarily financial, and just like my location was extremely far away from campus, and a 16-year-old should not have been doing that. That was just setting me up for failure. I was not able to get very far in that. I would love to go to college. I would love it so much. Unfortunately, I can't leave my house by myself because, you know, disabled. And also my brain's too scrambled to be able to do that. I don't want to pay a bunch of money and not being able to understand anything because my brain just can't. I just can't, you know. But I think if I were to go to college now, would I major in linguistics? Would it be English? Would it be history? It'd be something like that. I mean, ideally, I'd go to the University of Chicago for Egyptology. That would be the dream. It was never, ever going to happen for me. Financially, distance-wise, you know, all that. But if we're talking absolutely idealistically, that's what I'd do. So just in time for the food section of personal questions, I had my camera run out of battery, and then I decided to have lunch before coming back. And of course, as soon as I sat down, my neighbor is weed whacking. We're just gonna let it ride, or this video is never gonna get done. So, pineapple and pizza. I believe that's God's gift to man, really. It's you know, the combination of the sweet and tangy with the Canadian bacon / ham is absolutely perfect. That is an amazing combination. So back when I could eat candy, I pretty much went for like York peppermint patties primarily. Love Junior Mints, like Rolos, Milk Duds to a point, although I don't like how they get stuck in your teeth. I wasn't really a huge candy fan, actually. Now that I'm getting into like baking and confectionery, I'm disappointed I can't actually try any of the candy because homemade candy seems a lot better. So these next questions are going to make a little more sense if I provide context. So I have a mitochondrial disorder that may or may not have been caused, at least it reared its head when I got COVID in 2020. This is an extremely large topic. It causes a lot of diseases. It's not a good situation. So we are going to do like the bare minimum here. But what's relevant here is that my body can obviously store energy just fine. The problem is it can't use it. So my body cannot use carbohydrates whatsoever. It can't use sugar or starch or anything like that. So the amount of foods I can eat is much easier than what I can't. If I do have something that I can't eat, I get what's akin to a hypoglycemic reaction and an allergic reaction mixed together. It's one of the most horrible feelings I've ever had in my entire life, so I don't want to do that. So my body gets some energy from fat. It does have impaired ability to use that, but you have sugar, fat, and oxygen. Can't use sugar, can kind of use fat, can kind of use oxygen. So basically what I can eat is almonds, peanuts, cheese, meat, salmon, a couple of vegetables, mostly it's leafy greens are fine, celery, onions, and that's about it there. And I can have eggs. I think that's kind of it. So I'm on an extremely strict diet, and I've had to calculate everything. I have a total caloric count I need to hit, and more specifically, I also need a specific fat content in every meal, or else I have what looks like a hypoglycemic reaction. Any doctor who's seen me is like, this looks like diabetes without the blood sugar. That's basically what it is, at least this particular aspect of it. So because of that, everything makes me very ill except for 2 meals. So I wouldn't necessarily say they're my favorites, but it's what I have. So I do salmon. Usually we do olive oil, a little bit of lemon juice, garlic, salt, pepper, and oregano. And either my partner will grill it or I'll bake it. And then we have a creamy chicken soup that I do in the crock pot, which is chicken broth, heavy whipping cream, Italian seasoning, salt, pepper, and a mirepoix, which is carrots, celery, and onion. And I do like a very small amount of carrots. And, put that all together. And that's the easiest meal for me to eat. Otherwise, it could take me, lunch can take me up to 2 hours to eat because it's so painful. My throat is really fucked up from prolonged gastroesophageal reflux disease. It looks pretty nasty. It's not good. So that's the easiest for me to eat. So that kind of, at this point, if I can eat it without getting sick, then that becomes my favorite. Back before all this, my favorite was chicken fried steak with mashed potatoes and butter with the mashed potatoes, but gravy on the chicken fried steak, steamed green beans, and Hawaiian rolls. That was my favorite meal. Okay, so I absolutely love this question, and I'm going to use it as kind of a transition. So I have 2 things that I'll put in this. So firstly, what's still part of the food part is I love baking. I don't get to try anything, obviously, but I love baking so much. So the last thing we did was a sour cream muffin. We did one part was blueberry and one part was raspberry, and apparently those turned out really good. It was a Claire Saffit's recipe. Technically it was her mom's recipe, but we did that. For the 4th of July, I did a strawberry crunch poke cake, which is a Jell-O cake with a topping of crushed golden Oreos, strawberry gelatin powder, and melted butter. And then I made a homemade whipped cream and cream cheese frosting. I'm really enjoying making homemade whipped cream. That's been fun. My brother and his girlfriend came over and we made cookies for everybody. So I think it's 10 people, so 9 people if we discount me. And yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of cookies. It was like 80 or 90 cookies that we made. My favorite this year is we made a raspberry jam filled chocolate cupcake with a homemade vanilla buttercream. And one of my brothers, who doesn't really like desserts because he doesn't like how sickly sweet they can get, he said it was one of the best, if not the best cupcake he's ever had. So that was good. I think my partner's favorite might have been the lemon blueberry bread that we made in the spring that had a lemon glaze on it. So I really love baking, and I think the next thing I'm going to do is a bourbon peach crisp. I'm just waiting for Red Haven peaches to be ready. And yeah, I really, really love it. I mean, I can't do it by myself, unfortunately. You don't realize it, but stirring is extremely physically exertive, so I can't do that. But I can do a lot of other things, so, it's time for me to bake with other people. It's been quite nice. Now, the other thing is that I am really, really excited for the Riot Fest lineup this year. I so badly wanted to see the Descendants for my birthday, and they were playing in St. Louis, I think a couple days after, and I'm like, I bet they play Riot Fest. And they do. So I think we're kind of trying to get a group trip together. And at one point it was like 7 people might have been going. We need to talk to see who all wants to go. But in looking at the lineup, I'm not very excited about the headliners, but I wanted to see The Offspring, Sum 41, Newfound Glory would be cool if we had time, No Effects, Circle Jerks, Lawrence Arms, Face to Face, I want to see them so bad. SoCal Punk at its finest, love that. Let's see, Saturday, wanted to see Descendants. My partner's really gotten into the Hives, which I found funny. Basement would be alright. Buzzcocks, I could see them. Lagwagon, Dead Milkmen, that'd be dope. I don't think we're going on Sunday, but it would have been cool to see Rob Zombie and Suicidal Tendencies. I've seen Pennywise quite a few times. I really wanted to see Laura Jane Grace because she's doing an Operation Ivy set. So excited about that. I could have seen the Vandals and Strung Out. Yeah, for the most part. So, if you couldn't tell, I'm kind of into punk. The last couple years I've really gotten into, more specifically, American hardcore. My core genre will always be pop punk. I just, pop punk and skate punk, that just tends to be what I gravitate towards. Not as much like the last 10 years. I mean, I think the artist I listen to the most with sort of contemporary pop punk is Driveways. But other than that, yeah, like my Spotify every single day is like, on my day list, it's like, oh, do you want more anarcho-punk? Do you want more American hardcore? And I'm like, yeah, you're finally getting me. So that transitions into the couple of music questions, which is, what is your favorite band / artist / musician? And I have 2. I have Breaking Benjamin and I have Alkaline Trio. I've seen both of them twice. I've had tickets to see them more than that, but it just didn't work out. Those are my 2 favorite bands, although these days I listen to Alkaline Trio probably the most. And favorite non-English song, when I read this, I went back to my teenage days when I was watching Gurren Lagann, and I think it's the third ending song. It's in the second half of the show. Mina no Peace or Mina no Piso. I can't get away from that song. It's been one of my favorites for a very long time. And Gurren Lagann is my favorite anime of all time. So kind of matches up. The only comic book movie that I like that I know of, well, Hellboy was a comic book movie and I love that. So I guess that's another one. But Watchmen is my favorite movie and my favorite book. Comics just didn't really speak to me. I have read quite a few. It's just not a medium that I prefer. And like all the Marvel movies and stuff, I am a DC girl, but their TV shows is where it's at. So yeah, that would be it. Well, I answered the favorite movie part of that, although really if we got more into it, it'd be like, Underworld, Pride and Prejudice, Hellboy, The Village kind of thing. Favorite TV show is a little harder. What do I watch the most? The Vampire Diaries, because my taste is trash. I watch the originals, which is the spin-off series, a lot. Sense8, I watch a lot of J-dramas and like Japanese TV shows. I absolutely love those so much. Oh my god, do I enjoy gaming. I love gaming so much. I think probably my top is going to have to be Super Mario 64, but I am typically a PC gamer, although because of the toll that working with ASMR has taken on my arms, my wrists, and my tendons in my elbows specifically, I can't PC game anymore. So I plug an Xbox 360 controller instead into my computer and play that way. And lately I have done like a few months of playing Minecraft just about every day. I allow myself an hour to play. And then I got into Terraria. That was one of my favorite games of all time. But after I lost the use of being able to PC game, my brother said that Terraria with console was pretty ass, so I didn't. But then I was like, is it better like to play it and it's ass or to not play it at all? So I have been playing it, and yeah, the controls were a little hard to get used to, but the alternative is not playing it at all. So I'm having quite the ball. But other than that, I play a lot of city building games, of which I can't touch anymore. But we have like Pharaoh, Civilization 3, Alpha Centauri, Caesar, things like that. And 64 games, definitely Paper Mario, Super Mario, or Mario Kart 64, Pokemon Snap, Zelda Ocarina of Time. I did a lot of gaming on the PS2 and the Wii. I have Oblivion on the 360. I spent a whole winter playing Oblivion. And then it got a little repetitive, so I might get back into that. It was very cozy, especially because I was feeling really down about not having much mobility, and it's like I could just walk around and collect things. It really scratched the like World of Warcraft sort of nostalgia, I guess. So yeah, I'm very into gaming. I don't do like first-person shooter games, and I'm not like into big titles like Fallout or Fortnite or Overwatch, or I have been looking for Borderlands, but anytime I look at the video game store, they only have Borderlands 2. So I absolutely adore picnics. Picnics are my favorite thing, and I love the sort of sensory aspect of the sky, the visuals, the grass. I'll usually, I have a sheet and I bring a ton of pillows to prop myself up. So it's, I try my hardest to be on my phone as little as possible, which is, I'm able to do that quite well. But being out in nature and listening and experiencing, that is probably one of my favorite things to do, period. So I find that quite relaxing. Okay, so since I'm working on this project, this has been floating in my mind because I can't even believe it. But, all right, favorites, one of my favorite subjects, a little bit of trivia. So when people wore excavating and working in Karnak in Luxor, Egypt, there are these pylons, which are gateways, and you need a lot of material to use as fill in them because they're so large. And a lot of times what a pharaoh would do is they would take previous constructions from other pharaohs and use it as fill. Well, there is an open air museum at Karnak in which they have been able to pull out these pieces of these other constructions and put them back together and have reconstructions of the original pieces. I mean, they are broken and they need to fill some gaps and whatnot, but you're saying that like something from thousands and thousands of years ago that was kind of crushed up and just thrown into fill, you are reconstructing that and it's like almost as it was back then. That is insane to me. That is so awesome. I think the work they do is absolutely fantastic. So that is one of the coolest things that I've ever heard. I think that doing things for other people, like baking, or this year I've done a lot of organizing of events, like a family picnic thing, the 4th of July, things that involve people is what I find the most joy and satisfaction in. As I got sick, like things, you know, it's almost like life flashes before your eyes, whatever. The most important thing was family and community to me. So that is something that I crave constantly and something that I am always seeking out is just the opportunity to do things for other people because I want to see them flourish. I want to see them content. I want to see them happy. So that brings me the most joy of like, you know, when I bring a dessert and everybody really likes it, or when I create these sort of events and everybody gets together, or we have a big fishing trip, like that is like a drug to me. You know what? You are so brave for asking this question, and I have to say, probably a weasel, and I have no idea why, just I feel like they live incredibly interesting lives. So I think I'm gonna have to go with a weasel. Now on the flip side, turning into an animal permanently, probably a fox, which maybe is not a good idea because I think it's kind of rough for foxes, but I find them very fascinating. I see a lot of them, and I too would like to scream at all hours of the day. This was a really sweet question, and I liked your little blurb about what you would do with it. I think with the lottery, we'll go back to, you know, kind of my sort of people-oriented nature. I would pay off my mama's house for sure. And I think the rest of the money, like, I don't really have a use for it. I mean, it would be cool to have a house or, you know, to like kind of outfit my ASMR setting a little bit, but I don't really like, I would pretty much divvy it up between my brothers, really. That's kind of always been my plan, is if I have money, then it would go to my immediate family. All right, this is going to be a little strange as I preface every single question with that, but I think maybe a pig. Context being, when I was a toddler, we had a pet pig, actually. Yes, I live in Iowa, but I would occasionally, you know, I was small enough to be able to get on top of said pig because said pig was much bigger than I was. And that sort of feeling, I don't know. I mean, I obviously can't recreate that now, but that always felt, I don't know, really safe and really cool. So probably a pig. Ooh, this question is about to make me cry. There are quite a few things I would think about. Maybe when I went to Riot Fest with my brother and my partner, that was a really good time. Or like when we went to the Field Museum and I got to go through the Ancient Egypt exhibit, something I'm not going to be able to do again. I think ultimately there is this particular moment that I think about very often, where it was back in high school and I had one of my male friends who was driving, and my female best friend was in the passenger seat, and I was in the driver's rear seat, and we were on the gravels, and it was a beautiful day. The windows were down, and it was like a little chilly, and we had our, country music on, and I remember thinking in that moment that there will never be another moment that will be like this, and that I needed to commit it to memory. Oh God, you did make me cry. I remember holding on to that, and like, no matter how hard things got and how dire things get, in terms of like my disease and such like that, despite that, I still had a life where that moment happened, and I felt like really connected to two people, and they didn't care who I was, and they didn't care that I was pretty as human as it came. They just loved me, and I loved them, and that's all there was. Okay, so I didn't expect that to happen, and if there are still tears on my face, no, there aren't. So, well, if it's something personal, I don't have anyone. It's just not interesting to anyone else. But if like something happens to someone else, I will tell everybody. If something good happens to someone else, I will tell everybody. I think usually I'll probably start with my mama and then go through my brothers. I mean, we have a group chat, so maybe I'm telling them all at once. But yeah, just immediate family. I feel like presentism is kind of boring, to be honest. And eternalism makes more sense considering that, like, just because something is not in front of you, does that mean it doesn't exist? Or, like, if you're not seeing it, does it actually exist? And also, you have memories of things. Does that mean they don't exist? I think I probably more lean towards eternalism. Well, not to be super sappy, but it's always going to be whatever perfume my mom is wearing. It's cringe, but it's true. Otherwise, it might be lilacs, which is, again, like one of my mom's favorite smells. It's just, that really grounds you and roots you, and it's pretty much, it's always going to be about my mom. So currently, I just have the 3 tattoos. I'm hoping at some point that I can go to, like, an allergist/immunologist. That's the only reason why I haven't gotten other tattoos, is there's an allergy concern. But I have my Breaking Benjamin logo, that was number 2. I have my anatomical heart, that was number 1. And my Alkaline Trio logo, that's number 3. And the next one I want to get is under my collarbone. I want to get the term Koi no Yokan in Japanese. It's a mix of hiragana and kanji, I think, under my collarbone, and it means premonition of love in Japanese, which is like you look at someone and it's not falling in love at first sight, it's just knowing you're going to have a relationship with them. It's also the name of one of my favorite Deftones albums, so, I had to get a little bit of Deftones in there as well. I was definitely freaked out the first time I got a tattoo, and I've never gotten one anywhere except on my arm. I mean, it hurts. It feels like a tattoo. It does. But I was able, like, breathing exercises helped wonderfully. And also the first time I went with a friend, so I held her hand the whole time and we just kind of chit-chatted. But definitely, like, eat a heavy meal beforehand, even if you're super anxious. I made the mistake of only eating like a few carrots before my 3rd tattoo, and I had like a really bad sugar drop in the parking lot, and trying to get home while I could like barely see was not great. So it just, it feels exactly what you think it would feel like. I guess it's like if a cat was repeatedly scratching you, I suppose. Doesn't hurt as much as you think, but it also hurts just as much as you think. So I couldn't remember, and I did the test again, and apparently I am an INFP with a slash and T, which is the mediator. I just did that like 16 personalities quiz. It did match up pretty well. So oftentimes I will start up some Stardew Valley, or I'll read fan fiction, or a big one is I love watching InSim, who does a lot of Phasmophobia and other like ghost hunting games. I love that. He just played Obsidio recently, again after 2 years, and I was like, yeah, it's awesome. I will watch hours and hours of that man. I love him. I love him and his Dutchness and his sweaters and just yes. Otherwise, I will watch with Trixie Mattel and Katya. I watch a lot of Trixie and Katya. I watched a lot of Juno Birch as well back in the day. So yeah, it kind of comes down to drag queens, ghost games, fan fiction, and video games. That's a winning combo. So I've kind of mentioned him in passing, but obviously, yes, I have a significant other. We've been together for 6 years in October. So longest relationship I've ever had, and I think at this point it's the longest he's ever had as well. He is brilliant, and this train is going to completely railroad over my speech here. No pun intended. He is gorgeous, obviously, and he is confident. He is so sure of himself. It's like he was made for this world and this world was made for him. And as someone who has never felt like I belonged absolutely anywhere, I find that so fascinating. And it also just means that he's an excellent anchor for me because nothing phases him. He's just there, and he is just so certain. And that makes it easier for me to feel more confident and for me to feel more certain and comfortable, which I really value. I'm the world's most terrible witch, but of course the goddess knows that I have severe ADHD that will never be able to be medicated. So yeah, I definitely was able to celebrate Midsummer. We'll see about August. I don't know. But yeah, I do. It's something, I don't work much in terms of spell work and such anymore. If I do anything, it is for other people. For them to, find clarity or for good luck, stuff like that. I will do things for other people. I won't do it for myself. But I was really into more of the green witchery sort of modality, I guess, if you will. A little bit of kitchen witchery as well. That's definitely kind of shifted. So I am much more into sort of the kitchen witchery and a lot of the intentions, like when I bake, for example. I definitely want to get back into it. It's just something I cannot focus on it. So I just try to do more practical stuff. I don't work from a grimoire. I just work by whatever, the only time I really ever felt intuition was with my faith. And so that's what I work with. I just allow that to happen because obviously there's a reason that the only intuition I have in life is with my faith. Well, this is something that's come up quite a bit in my life these last 4 years, and I've done the number one biggest thing, which seemed like the most unattainable, but I achieved immortality, which is that I am on the internet. My work is on the internet, and I have so much content on here, and people know me in the Basque country, and I get a lot of comments from like Malaysia or South Africa or Brazil, like from literally all over. There is someone who probably knows me in every single country. That's insane. So that's definitely like, as long as the internet is alive, I'm still here. I will still be with everyone. Other things are definitely concerts. I want to see the Descendants. I'm hoping to do that this year. I've seen Alkaline Trio again. I would love to see them another time. That would be excellent. I'd really love to see Chevelle and Deftones. I don't know how certain those are. But primarily, it's just kind of that. Realistically, I can go to some concerts. That's achievable. Other things that might have been on my bucket list that just aren't possible anymore, I allowed them to leave, Okay, well, ideally here, Biggest thing is I am editing a book. This would be my 5th full-length manuscript, and I'm hoping to get that done by November because I want to work on National Novel Writing Month on a different project, which is originally a short story. Well, it's a novella. It's at 20K words, and I want to make that into a full-length novel, which hopefully would be my 2nd publication if I can get the 1st published. So, very excited about that. I have a ton of projects I want to do for ASMR. I'm not going to say anything about them because I want them to happen. I don't want to put the weird pressure or demands on myself for that. I do hope that I'm going to be getting this filming corner thing done, or at least started, within the next couple weeks. I'm very excited about that. In terms of long term, I want to make it to 30. I told my family, if I make it to 30, we are allowed to do a big party because it's going to be kind of a miracle. But I want the opportunity to see my brothers grow up. I want to, maybe one of them will get married, or maybe one of them will have a kid, whatever. I want to see them grow up. So the only thing I can do about that is just try to take care of myself as best as I can with the circumstances that I have, and just hope that it works out. And if it doesn't, I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing just so that I can make sure that I'm not regretting anything. Now, to end it with some funsy stuff. So what are my cats' names? My little cat section here. So I have Miname, which we call Minnie, and we have Kiwi. They are twin tabby cats. They were a year old in June, so they are still babies yet. So these children are quite wild. So I have a box of little meat sticks, those little mini ones, and the box got mangled, so we put them in a bag and on a shelf in the kitchen. These little cats. One day my partner comes down in the morning and he said there were meat sticks everywhere on the first floor. And he thought he got all of them, but all of a sudden he heard the crunching of the paper, or of the plastic. That's all they want. They don't want the actual food. They want the plastic. So that was pretty funny. I laughed quite a bit at that. Also, Minnie is a mama's boy. He is a mama's boy. Kiwi is also a mama's girl, but he needs to be with me at all times or he will scream. That boy can scream. So they will follow me around absolutely anywhere. My partner's family came over recently and they're like, where are the cats? And he's like, well, Calliope's upstairs, so they're with her. And yes, they were the whole time. They like to sit with me when I do my makeup. I had to put a little folding table next to my computer because Kiwi needs to know what I'm doing all the time. So she would constantly get up in the chair on top of the keyboard. So now she has a spot with a towel and she loves that. She fucking loves that. So I will be editing and she will hang out there and just snooze. She just wants to know what I'm doing. So yeah, they are all on me all the time. Kiwi loves to sit right here, and I have to sit like this because she's too big. When she was a kitten, she could be right here, but now I gotta do one of these. And Minnie loves touching me in any way, so he'll sprawl out against my leg or between my legs or right by my feet or on top of me. He needs to be with me all the time. He is the best the best creature ever, because it's if ever I'm nobody fucking wants me, I just have to go in a room with these cats or just walk in a room and they will be there and they want to be around me. They love being around me. And one last little thing. When I film, I put them in the sunroom because that area stays pretty cool. It's able to be shut, and they stay in there pretty much all day anyway. So sometimes Minnie will be sleeping upstairs because that's where I was, And trying to get him to come down is kind of difficult. So what I do is his sister will be sitting in the chair in there. So I will very loudly like start petting her and go, "Oh, Kiwi, I love you so much. You're such a good girl. You're so pretty," all this stuff. And he will hear me and he will come down the stairs and you can see him peeking out from behind the wall. And so I'll just keep doing that and like tilt myself so he can see me petting her. And then he will come down and he'll come in and then he wants to be pet. He gets so jealous of her. And actually, I've been able to do that with Minnie too, where I'll be like, "Oh, Minnie, I love you so much. You're such a distinguished gentleman." And Kiwi will get upset that she's not getting attention. So then she'll come up and she will start yelling at me. They are my heart. I love them so much. Okay, so oh my god, this has been so long. I don't know how long this video will end up being, but filming wise, it's well over 2 hours. It's been really insane. So I'd like to thank you for sticking with me. This was a lot of fun. It was also very difficult. I kind of put it off a little bit because I was like, how am I going to talk about myself like while keeping it fun, but also being truthful? But I don't know about you, I am exhausted, so I think I might watch that Obsidio stream, or I'm watching Dragon Sakura right now on Netflix, which the male protagonist is extremely fine. Is very nice looking. Or, maybe I will get back to my fan fiction, The World is My Oyster. So, thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a whale of a day and a good rest of your night.